What is the difference between a chorus line and a magician? A magician offers a cunning array of stunts. I always like that joke, and I always like the word that's not said there. I do, and I'm going to come back to that in a minute, because I wanted to discuss why marriages fail. And well, if you trust the conventional wisdom, it's always A, B, C, or D. And I think there might be room for E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, and probably Q, R, S, and T, U, V. And probably much, much more. We could go, well, can't go too much further. Well, we could go beyond the alphabet and then say alpha, beta, that sort of thing. There are a lot of reasons why marriages can fail. Lots of reasons. And it's not always something dirty or something scandalous, and it can be a cumulative sort of thing too, where we're talking about A, B, C, and D. It can be a combination of F and J, for instance, and those can add up. Those can add up like frequent flyer miles. They can just crush a marriage, a relationship, and I understand that. I understand that, and I want to tell other people about that. I guess the one thing I would caution most men is to be careful with the C word. The C word. I've learned over the years that some women find the C word offensive. And I don't know who gets to make these list of offensive words, who does that, but if they're going to continue to list words that are offensive, well, I wish they would just share their findings with us. They could give us a memo too, right? Because who gets to make this decision that the C word's a bad word? And I'm not George Carlin fighting these battles all the way to the Supreme Court about words you can say and can't say. I choose my battles. And I understand the historical basis for words that are considered offensive. It goes back to the Middle Ages, when well, actually a little beyond the Middle Ages, in an era when the learned people knew Latin and Greek and used Greek and Latin words to describe bodily parts and bodily functions, and the common folk used Anglo-Saxon terms because that's all they knew. And they did not know words like feces, for instance. And they did not know that B word for female body part. That's okay to say on TV, but we can't say the Anglo-Saxon word, the C word. If you look at most of the words in the English language that are considered vulgar, they are of Anglo-Saxon origin. And I have to admit, I always loved words of Anglo-Saxon origin, and I'm not alone. I'm in pretty good company in this. I know that when Winston Churchill used to make his speeches that moralized an entire nation and well beyond, I might add, he was a very clever man, and he would use a lot of Anglo-Saxon words in his speeches because he was well aware of their emotional impact. So he would, for instance, would say landing fields instead of airports, because landing fields were purely Anglo-Saxon, and they just hit on a much more visceral level than the Latin term airport. And years later, when the U.S. government was trying to ram through something called Homeland Security, they did not call it domestic security or internal security, because those were Latin-based and they wanted something with more of an emotional impact. So they went with Homeland Security. See? So perhaps for that reason I've always had a certain affinity for the C word, and I realize that I just like the way it kind of, the word sounds when it's said. I do. I think it's a very beautiful word. Even though it's not romantic in the sense that it's from a romantic language, I think it's the most romantic word in the English language. I do. And I know a lot of people share that. Well, not a lot of people. I know some. Well, I'm probably the only one voicing that sentiment, that it's a very romantic word. But whoever said that that's an offensive word, I think they could have given me a heads up. They could have done a public service announcement or something so that I didn't, so I would have known that some women don't like that word. You know? How was I to know? But I have to admit that I can be stubborn, and I have to admit that at times maybe I wasn't always a team player, and maybe when I say I fight, I choose my battles, maybe I should have chosen that battle a little more carefully. It's one that I could have yielded on, and things probably would have worked out for the better. But in the parlance of the day, the political parlance, the discourse that they sometimes say, he doubled down, where it seems like a political figure is made a mistake, and instead of backing away from it, he reinforces whatever he said. And I doubled down with the C word, and what I tried to do when my wife said that she didn't think it was one of her favorite words, well, she phrased it much differently than that. When she did express that she didn't share my appreciation of that beautiful Anglo-Saxon word, I would try to repackage it. See? Instead of saying, honey, you're my favorite C word, I try to repackage it. I would say, honey, you're not a C word, you're my C word. And that didn't work too well. It didn't. And it was, what I've learned now is the buck conventional wisdom, because we have something ingrained in our heads that we should never give up. Never, ever, ever give up. I mean, that's Winston Churchill telling people, never, ever, ever. He puts another ever give up. You know, he says that. But there are times to give up. There really are, and when there's only so many ways you can repackage some words, and the C word, you can precede it with words like soft and tender and beautiful, and it doesn't necessarily work. It's still the C word, and to some people, the C word is just not going to resonate with the same sensitivity that resonates with some of us. They're just never going to appreciate it. So that's something to keep in mind. I wish someone would have intervened on my behalf earlier and just told me to just maybe fight another battle. Choose another battle to fight. Don't stick your neck out for this word. Just let it go to the lexicography graveyard. Just let it go. You know, it's on its way there. Let it go. Yeah. And I didn't do that. You know. So I wish someone would have helped me out a little bit, would have sent me a memo, sent me a heads up, and what I can do now is share my wisdom with others. So remember, all the men out there, just a few simple rules. I think I've mentioned some of these before, and I'll add to them. Learn more than one joke. If you want to tell your wife a joke, learn more than one joke. Don't just keep refining the same joke. Learn more than one. That's good. That can help a marriage. Number two, if you want to tell her stories about your workplace, have more than one story. That's helpful. That is. And thirdly, go easy on the C word. A cutting array of stunts